I am here with two of my favorite Keller Williams agents, two of my top 10
Ah,
favorite Keller Williams agents. Mike Flynn from Keller Williams Greater Nassau, and Annette Holmgren. I forget where you are. Keller Williams.
Rebecca. No.
I guess you're not my favorite. No,
Clearly.
well, you're not there right now. And we just thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk about the state of the market, both in Long Island and New York City, see if there are any crossovers and trends, give our audience who we know are kind of in both places a better picture as to what's going on there right now. So, Annette, why don't we start with New York City and give us an update as to what you're seeing there? Has there been a change in volume, change in inventory over the last few weeks? Are we on an upward trend, a downward trend? What are some of the things you're seeing?
So what we're seeing is the complete opposite of what we anticipated to see. What we anticipated to see was a lot of listings on the market and not a lot of buyers coming into the market. And that's actually not happening. What we're seeing is people from the outer boroughs and the tri-state area that have to work in the city are actually buying apartments in the city now. So the people with the families and they want to get out and they want more space are leaving. And then people are actually coming back in that need to be there and don't want to do the commute every day. So we're actually having a lot of transactions, a lot on the rental side, a lot on the sales side. Things are moving. We aren't having a lot of bidding wars, but if it is priced properly and it's a great deal, people are going after it. So it's not, we anticipated a standstill on the market. We anticipated a lot of sellers trying to sell because they were going to move out of the city and want to get rid of their apartments and no one coming into the city. But that's actually not happening. So it's been a lot busier than everyone anticipated. So it's not as bad as we thought.
Is that a trend that we expect to kind of see continuing, or is the trend going to change? Because obviously more and more businesses are going to open in New York City, assuming that everything continues to improve. So is the anticipation that it'll be the same kind of market, or are you anticipating a shift in the market at some point as things improve? What's the analysis there?
I think that it's going to continue in this shift of people that have to come back to the city are not going to want to do the commute every day on the trains or on the buses. And I think it's just going to increase the demand on the market where we were already in a buyer's market. We're going to be in an even stronger buyer's market because there's going to be a lot of buyers. There's going to be a lot of sellers that want to get out, and that some people that are, don't have a lot of equity because they only bought a few years ago, maybe have one child, but don't want to deal with being in the city with that child and want more space and are moving out. And I think they're going to have, I think it's going to be a continuous cycle of being busy with the same problems for everyone for at least the next year.
the commuting thing I'm seeing also being, that's kind of like the unifying force. I think you hit it right on the head. We kind of expected that families or people who were outgrowing their apartment in a hurry and needed backyard space and more space at distance were fleeing to the suburbs. And I think most of them, once they get there, are intending to work from home almost all the time. It's not so different in Westchester or Northern Jersey, but Long Island in particular, if you're not taking the railroad in, you're looking at a nightmare commute in most cases, because there are only so many highways and it's all east to west traffic. So the biggest concern I hear from people that have been working from home is, I don't mind working from home. I don't really mind being in the office. I'm not overly worried about having to wear a mask or having, people around me in meetings. It's getting there. It's getting to and from, because in a lot of cases, if you have an hour where you're on a train car and you're just breathing in the same air, breathing it out, they've had to a few times on the Long Island Railroad, issue these memos that, riders have to have masks on, but it's hard for them to enforce it. It's been really hard. So that seems to be the key. And it's going to be kind of interesting when this shakes out, that we have this kind of migration east, but also now west from the island back into the city. And it's almost like people are going to just, maintain their positions on the two islands and not really crisscross anymore, which historically, they used to call a lot of Long Island towns bedroom communities, because it was just where the worker went home to sleep at night, and they had to set up schools and and shopping so that the families could live a normal life, but it was all centered around getting in and out of Manhattan. So it's going to be really interesting to see that change. And so are you seeing a lot of people who are new to the workforce that are coming into the New York City market?
So we're not. What we're seeing is a lot of people that are older, that their kids are older.
Interesting.
And they really don't need their houses anyways. So instead of downsizing, maybe going to Florida or getting something smaller where they are, they're downsizing and coming to Manhattan because they still have to work for the next 5 or 10 years and they don't want to commute.
Yeah.
And that's true.
It's interesting that you brought up Florida because, and it's not just Florida, it's we've seen a trend to the southern states where it's warmer, the Sun Belt, that's been going on for decades. But one of the things that we were anticipating in the suburban market was if you didn't need your house with the 5 bedrooms or the 4 bedrooms anymore, and you were just paying the taxes because you hadn't gotten around to selling it yet, we thought as soon as they're able to, anybody who is an empty nester is going to list and just get out of New York State. We haven't really seen that. In some places, we've seen a little bit of a surge in inventory, but the inventory we have not had like a late breaking spring inventory. And so it's definitely a seller's market in a lot of these towns, on Long Island at least. I think Westchester, I hear the same thing. I wonder if some of that is because those same people, as they were making their plans to leave, saw New York go from the worst to the best as far as infection rates and response. And now some of the places they were planning to go to, it's the opposite. It's like they're, leaving the fire and leaving the kettle and going to the fire. I don't know the right expression for it, but I think this whole year is just going to be a strange year where at the end of 2020, hopefully we're moving on into 2021 and we can put this behind us, and then we'll see what the true market looks like and how the landscape has changed. Because right now there's just so much in flux. It's crazy.
Yeah.
In both markets, are we seeing kind of static pricing? Has pricing been impacted at all? I think, talking to my colleagues and friends, I think people who aren't in the industry think that there might be deals out there. Is that true?
So for the city, if you have outdoor space of any kind, you are getting a premium because we had a listing that was on the market for almost 2 years and it was an awkward layout, but they had huge outdoor space. And that was the first thing to sell in COVID, because that is a commodity right now. And that is something that you can't get everywhere. So anyone that has a terrace, a balcony, a backyard, a roof deck, they're getting premiums because that's what people are looking for with families. They're willing to move to get that outdoor space because they want to stay in the city for work reasons or whatever. If you don't, those people are pricing, I think, a little bit more on the lower side, or at least more aggressively, so that they are competitive in the market, because that is not an ideal spot for people that want to stay there. They want some sort of outdoor space, so they're not locked in.
Mike, what about Long Island where outdoor space is more obviously common?
Right. I would say that the limited number of deals that were getting done during the shutdown, which very difficult to pull off. It was a lot of direct buyer to seller, showing coordination because agents were not permitted to be involved in that part of the process. So there were some deals that got done, not too many. Those deals, from what I hear, because I to be honest, not one deal actually went under contract that started in COVID for me. I had deals that we had to hold together that were in contract before the shutdown started that we were getting closed during COVID. And certainly we're queuing up some deals and had some people that were interested in looking, but didn't have any that started and ended, meaning they were starting to look and they went into contract during the shutdown. But I hear of it from talking to colleagues. Those, in a lot of cases, I think had a discount built in because you're taking a big risk buying in the middle of this and not knowing where it's going to come out. Now that people are able to look at houses a little more normally, you can actually go in person to check something out. And we haven't seen that surge in supply when it comes to houses for sale. In most cases, I think we're seeing prices either maintaining their level or going up. And the ones that have bidding wars and the ones that have a line around the block for an open house where it's in the sweet spot. Anything under 650 in an area that people are going to flock to because of property size or commute time or whatever the reason might be. Those are seeing lines around the block, and there could be a real issue when it comes time to appraise those, because if someone's getting a mortgage and they had to bid up to get the property, it's not that that there wasn't the fair market value. If you have a bidding war, it's the highest bidder wins, and that's the only way to secure it. But when a bank comes in, think about it. Normally a bank will go back 6 months, maybe 9 or 12 months in the past if they have to. Now, I think that they're going to have to go at least 9 months back. There's not enough closing activity for them to gauge what the prices should be, because we haven't seen as many closings, and there's going to be a big gap in the pipeline from new listings and deals. So I think being an appraiser in the second half of 2020, that's got to be really tough. You're going to have to get creative, go further out geographically, go further back in time to try to find what's the value, because until something closes and becomes public record, nobody really knows what somebody really paid for a comparable property. So my hat's off to the appraisers who had to get creative also during the shutdown. We saw the reintroduction of drive-by appraisals, which I haven't seen those since, before 2008, before the crash, because they just weren't allowed to. They had to go in and really take stock of what was in the house. The industry is getting creative all around. So that answered your question and then some. And this is getting kind of long, so I don't know if we want to cut it short. We might have to break it up into segments, but
I think we should probably do this once a week and just give everybody an update as to what's going on, and that way we can all see each other too, which is always a nice thing.
Yeah.
So,
and if we break this one up into segments, we're gonna have to have a disclaimer that Lee and I did not wear a blue shirt 2 weeks in a row, and look almost identical to one another.
We should do a different color.
Yeah, maybe. All right, we'll coordinate ahead of time, and
We'll
you can get it
too, so that all three of us are wearing the same.
So we can coordinate our outfits. Yeah.
Red, white, and blue next time.
It should be reflective of our mood. Things are getting better, so I guess blue is not the right color. We should be wearing yellow or something.
Green, money.
I like that. Let's all shoot for green next time. And in the meantime, everybody have a good week, and thanks for watching us too.
Bye, everybody.